Hello Internet, and welcome back to my series of film reviews. Last time we covered Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and now we've made it to the next entry in the MCU, and the last film of Phase 5, Thunderbolts, or Thunderbolts with an asterisk. Thunderbolts follows a team of anti-heroes, and are Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad. The team consists of Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan. He made a brief cameo appearance at the end of Captain America Brave New World, after his ultimate redemption arc in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And returning from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is John Walker, or U.S. Agent, played by Wyatt Russell. He was chosen by the U.S. government to take Steve Rogers' place as the next Captain America, before decapitating one of the Flag Smashers with the shield, and getting an other-than-honorable discharge, before Sam Wilson ultimately became Captain America himself and got his own movie, which I ended up reviewing back in February. And then there's Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, who was first introduced in 2021's Black Widow as Natasha's adoptive sister. And let me tell you, all throughout Black Widow, the sibling bond between Natasha and Yelena kinda reminded me of Sonic and Sonic in a way. And even the secret whistle they shared made its way into the Sonic and Sonic lore. Also returning from Black Widow are David Harbour as Alexei Shostakov, or the Red Guardian, the Soviet Union's answer to Captain America. And then there's Olga Krylenko as Antonia Dreykov, or Taskmaster. This version of Taskmaster is a gender swap version of the classic Marvel Comics villain. And speaking of gender swap versions of Marvel Comics villains, we have the return of Hannah John Kamen as Ava Starr, or Ghost.
There's no such thing as a friendly ghost.
Hannah John Kamen reprises the role from Ant-Man and the Wasp from 2018, so it was a nice surprise seeing her in this movie. And then we have Lewis Pullman as Bob, or Sentry, or the Void. From what I've heard, he's Marvel's answer to Superman. And fun fact, Lewis Pullman is the son of actor Bill Pullman, just as Wyatt Russell is the son of Kurt Russell, who actually portrayed Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And then we have Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, a character who previously appeared in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the post-credit scene for Black Widow, and also made a short appearance in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. They may not be heroes, but they have no choice but to work together and put all their differences aside if they want their names to appear on a chair in Avengers Doomsday. Because we already saw Sebastian Stan, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Lewis Pullman, and Hannah John Kamen's names on chairs, along with Kelsey Grammer, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Alan Cumming, Rebecca Romaine, and the donut-loving sheriff of Green Hills himself, James Marsden. And speaking of Rebecca Romaine, I'm glad that she was blipped back to reality after she was previously erased from existence in Dark Phoenix. And let me tell you, I'm glad I drank all that whiskey reviewing that movie. Or should I say, torturing myself with that movie. All that aside, this film will be entirely spoiler-free. So with that said, here's my thoughts on the final film of Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as the Fantastic Four First Steps kicks off Phase 6. This is Thunderbolts. I'm just gonna say this right now. The title of this movie is very misleading, even though the Thunderbolts from Marvel Comics are a real team of anti-heroes and are pretty much Marvel's Suicide Squad. And I will also say that the 5-hour-long Avengers Doomsday cast reveal gave away a character's death early on in the film. A character who only had 30 seconds of screen time, yet was on the damn poster and in the damn trailer. The team started out hating each other's guts, but they have to work together and put their differences aside because they all have one common enemy. One who just wants to fuck them over by any means necessary. And then there's Bob. Bob here is probably one of my new favorite characters introduced in a Marvel movie. A mentally unstable loser signed on to be part of a program that gives him superpowers, but at a cost. So not only is he Marvel's answer to Superman, but he's also Marvel's answer to Homelander. But mostly Homelander because he's mentally unstable and doesn't give a fuck and a half who gets in his way, and is backed by a corporate overlord. But the standout of this movie is Florence Pugh, just like she was in Black Widow before this, with David Harbour being pretty much the comic relief. Not in an annoying kind of way like Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I mean, just the way he says things. And it was interesting to see characters on the big screen who made their debut on Disney+. Not only in this movie, but also Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, The Marvels, and Captain America Brave New World. And this movie actually acknowledges the events of Captain America Brave New World, in which Harrison Ford's Red Hulk caused a ruckus, and Sam Wilson had to stop him and bring him back to his senses. But did this movie turn out better than Captain America Brave New World? Yes it did. But does it top any of the films from the glory days of the MCU? No it doesn't. I had a fun time with this movie, despite me going in with the expectations of a food critic writing a review of a double quarter pounder with cheese at a 1-star McDonald's in the middle of Wisconsin with health code violations like you wouldn't believe. Sometimes it's the exact opposite, where I have the expectations of a food critic writing a review of a $60 steak frites dinner at a fancy restaurant, and it turned out that the chef who prepared the steak frites dinner sneezed on it, thus leading to a disappointing meal and the restaurant being shut down for an actual health code violation. And then there's times where I had the expectations of a food critic writing a review of a $4 cheeseburger from Burger King, with soggy french fries and moldy cheese, and I end up puking in the parking lot. That was me with Captain America Brave New World, but not Thunderbolts. If I were to nitpick this movie, it would have to be the inclusion of Ava Starr, or Ghost. She doesn't really do much in this movie, after being the main antagonist of 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp. But it would be interesting to see Paul Rudd's reaction to seeing her again in Avengers Doomsday. Same with Thor meeting the Loki variant who saved the multiverse in the Season 2 finale of Loki. And Taskmaster was done dirty in this movie, just like she was in Black Widow. The exclusion of her name on a chair was a dead giveaway as to what happens to her in this movie. This movie was a solid way for certain characters to be redeemed after doing a bunch of bad shit. Like with John Walker after being the worst Captain America to ever hold the shield. And Yelena after years of training in the Red Room and feeling guilty for all the bad shit she did. And then there's the Red Guardian, who's a father figure not only to Yelena, but the rest of the team as well. And let's not forget our good pal Bucky. He already had his ultimate redemption arc in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and he acts as the leader for this team after spending decades under Hydra's control as the Winter Soldier. Bob, while being introduced as an amnesiac nobody, later grew on me, and the climax of the film had me rooting for him to overcome his demons and not do it alone. And I feel that Bob's struggles in this movie is a metaphor for those out there who are battling depression. No matter what life throws at you, you will never be alone. I'm giving Thunderbolts an 8 out of 10. This is a solid conclusion of Phase 5 of the MCU, despite that phase consisting mostly of flops like Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, The Marvels, Captain America Brave New World, and Secret Fucking Invasion. And then there's great ones like Deadpool and Wolverine, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Daredevil Born Again. Florence Pugh and Lewis Pullman are the two standouts of this movie, and I was half expecting the two of them to kiss towards the end, but did that happen? No, it did not. But it was nice to see this ragtag team of anti-heroes put their differences aside and save the day, just like the Suicide Squad before them. Except the Suicide Squad is just incarcerated criminals doing missions in exchange for reduced sentences, but that's not the protagonist of this movie. It still has the same problems that plagued the post-Endgame MCU, but it was still a solid way to close off Phase 5. As always, do stay until the end of the credits because there's a very important setup that you don't want to miss, leading up to Avengers Doomsday. While my expectations for Thunderbolts were less than high, I enjoyed it for what it was. Not a perfect movie, but a fun popcorn flick, and a good excuse to get away from chaotic audiences who went fucking apeshit during a Minecraft movie. So do I recommend this movie? Yes. Yes I do. Certainly better than Captain America Brave New World, but not a perfect movie. Stay tuned for my upcoming reviews of Superman, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and more coming soon. Till then, I'll see you all next time.